Okay, so far we have seen basic React elements dynamically rendering and side effects and all the hooks, right? So there is one thing called React Router, basically for navigating application components into different pages. Let's say if we have single page application, our dynamic rendering works. Whereas when we have multiple pages, we can still use anchor elements, which means like A tags and have links href to a different link. But if this will actually reload the entire page if you use this kind of syntax. And in order to handle the same page reloads and to handle navigating between pages, we use React Router. So basically, for this, I have created a new React application with npm npx create React app, just like we had earlier, React app. And name of the app is like that. And this has initialized this package.json. If you see here, it has start scripts, just like the other React application. So I've added a few backend resources, which we'll be covering in the next subsequent sessions. But for now, what we are going to concentrate on is the React router. So far, I haven't done any, I haven't added any router components here. Basically, this is a bare minimal React application. So, and except for a few images, I've added nothing. And some CSS I've added. Apart from that, there's nothing else. So as a starting point, we'll have a look at this. Basically, in order to use React Router, why this would be needed is to navigate between pages. Let's figure out why and how to add those components. Okay, in order to use our React routers, there is a package called React Router DOM. So we need to install React Router DOM. For that, let's open up our terminal and let's install npm install React Router DOM. I'm going to use version 6 for now. So there is a latest version 7, probably that might have more features. But this is the most used version. So let's use this. So this will install two packages, React Router and React Router DOM. You can see here React DOM and React Router DOM. Okay. Let's start our application. Almost 3000. This is a basic React template I have added. So our index.js has app. App has one header, which has a logo, and then a footer, just like this. So inside this, I actually want some kind of APIs. Sorry, the different pages. We will implement different pages for this application. So what we will do, first thing we need to, let's say I have links here. I can actually go to different pages based on dynamically rendering different pages based on the route. If I go to /home, let's say, this still renders this. And let's say if I have articles or something else, it always renders the first page, which is the app.js. If you see here, I go to home page. If I go to app, This always renders this, and footer, nothing else. Clear this out. Basically, I created other components for homepage and header, homepage or register and session pages. These are different components. Only difference is they're not integrated into the app yet. So I want to navigate between these different components or pages based on the link provided, articles or homepage or notes or whatever. So as of now, nothing else gets rendered on the app as their bare minimum. So in order to implement a routing mechanism, I have to import the router called browser router from React router DOM. So import browser router from React router DOM. Basically, I'm going to wrap this entire app inside that React router DOM. So let's move this. Okay, actually, I'll move this thing outside of app.js and let's put it in index.js. Import this, and this app is going to be wrapped inside browser router. What this browser router does that does is that, so whenever I click on a link, it intercepts that particular link and navigates to the respective element if it's defined. So we have to basically define what route will correspond to which element. So that I will do now. So we have done index.js. We have to now go into our app.js, then edit it. Just a second. So inside the app component, I'm going to define some routes. Let's say I'm going to define some links here and then navigate to the respective component if somebody clicks on that route. So in order to define those routes, I will have to import two objects from React router DOM, which is what routes and out. React router DOM. So I'm going to put those links over here, define the routes here after the header. And each of the routes, each of the navigation routes will be specified under route. So this route actually has two parameters. It will specify the path. Let's say if slash path is home page, then we'll have to specify the path as slash. And it also accepts one more element property, which accepts, let's say, hello, this is the home page. Let's say I'll add this is the home page. So earlier when I navigated to slash, it was rendering this entire thing. So you have to close this. So this particular thing, when I go to slash page, this data will get rendered. There was no other thing earlier. Now this gets rendered. Let's say similarly, if I define some other route for slash home and define an element, let's say it's on this is the page. Okay, this is, I will just say about page and close this route. And based on the navigated path, as slash is just nothing, the home page gets rendered. And if I say about, this about page gets rendered. So this entire thing is wrapped under a layout. So this gives us the app layout, and whatever is defined inside it, inside the routes, will give us the dynamic path based on the navigation URL. This is kind of a single page application, but with different URLs, and you can bookmark these URLs and use it in your browser history. So let's actually do one thing. Instead of doing the entire thing here, we will extract these components into different components. Just let's remove this and add it into header component. So this header component I'm going to use instead of this. I'm just removing this. I extracted this into header component and put the same thing over here. But basically this kind of is kind of optimized. What we did here is we have used a special element called link, component called link. That's the navigation element. Let's remove this and we will implement it again. So starting from app.js, we are going to extract this into a header component. I'll create a header component, export default header as a function. This returns and this logo we have to import from it. So now we have extract the header component into a separate component, but we have to use this header instead of previous lines. This header we need to import from our header file. So we have it and we have the header. So this footer we can leave it for now. And this body, let's say now if I want to add navigation links between different pages, I'm currently going through a home page or about page like this, but I need to have those links defined here. So I'm going to extract those links in here and use an element called link and also an element called, yeah, first let's use link and then we will define more of it. For that, I'm going to use this nav element in the header component. After this image, I'm going to use a nav element. So link is a special component from React Router DOM that allows us, if somebody clicks on an external link, it will go to the other page. If it is an internal link within the single page application, it will intercept that link navigation and navigates the specific component without rendering the whole page. So when we use normal anchor elements like HTML tag, anchor tag, it will navigate to the new page or the page gets reloaded entirely. So the advantage with link is that React will intercept it and use only the components that are changed, only renders those components that are changed. So let's use link inside of here. Let's put a home link. So this link tag accepts a parameter called to, which is the path of the link. I'm going to use home for this, and about link I'm going to use like this. If I go here, we can see that home and about are coming. If I click on about, it goes to about. If I click on home, it goes to home. Just like this, we have some register page, sessions page, confirmation page, category page, all that. So let's add these all things into the header. So, but before that, there is something called nav link, which is an enhanced version of the link. Basically, when we click on a specific link, how do I know that this current page is related to this link? So nav link will give us some kind of functionality. Let's use nav link and let me demonstrate how that changes. So let's go change this to nav link instead of link. So this image also I'm going to change that to link. So when I click on this logo image, it should actually navigate to the home page. So click on this, nothing happens right now. If I wrap this up in a link tag, that navigates to slash page, that will work. If I click on this, it will go to the home page, just like that. And this nav link, what it gives is, it gives a special functionality for us to see if the current page URL actually has a specific string in it. So is active. It will add an active class to the specific object. If I go to this, now it's about page, right? So actually the class has been added, active class has been added. If I go to the home page, now this anchor tag element navlink, which is a navlink element, has active tag, active class added to it. So based on this active tag, we can actually define some CSS rules to show this particular page in a different color or as a highlighted item in the navigation menu. So that's the advantage of having nav links instead of links, just an additional functionality. So this time we are going to define some nav links here. Leave it for now. Let's go back to routes and map all these pages in the routes. Here instead of this, I'm going to navigate to home page. Use the home page as the element that I need to use. Okay, import this. From home page. Import home from home. So this is the home page that I have defined. I go to the home page, you can see all the content here. As this is a demonstration of routes, I didn't fully develop from scratch in the class. So let's go back. App. We have defined home page. Now let's define about page. I also have an about page here. So this about page I'm going to use here instead of a sample. I want to import about page from about. Now if I navigate to about page, it gives me proceedings. Now let's add some more components, just like categories. So this is to demonstrate nested functionality. So register page has a form in it. So I'm going to demonstrate that also. So on submit, how to navigate among different pages programmatically. On submission, let's say confirmation page should come. Those kind of demonstrations I will be doing. So we can have login page also, just like this login page. Let's do register. Instead of login, let's add register page. This has register imported, and let's have something called categories. And categories. If you observe the categories page, so it has just a simple demo text. So now we are actually going to have nested routes. Basically, inside categories, let's say I go to a specific category, and based on that, let's say this is a list view, list of to-dos. Let's say I have a list of to-dos. The to-dos will come here. If I click on one of the to-dos, it will give me more details about that. So navigating among different pages, nested pages is what categories is now. Let's go to this. If I go to categories, let's change this categories page to have actual data. So, but before that, I'm going to add this navigation elements also for the remaining pages. Let me complete all the remaining pages. Register is done, about is done, categories. Yeah, this should be fine. Register page, after registration, we will actually navigate to confirmation page, which will say like 91 and so on. But for now, we will not add it. So once we have handled the nested routing logic, then we will handle that automatic navigation. Now let's go back to the categories. All this, I'm going to actually copy this entirely. One small thing we can do here is we now have active inactive class, right? Based on the active or inactive flag, we can change the CSS. For that, so I'm going to define a class name in the header for these elements. Navigate class name equals something. So if it is active, it's going to call a function like this. This component actually will have a property called is active. If it is active, give a class name as active. Let's just use nav active. Otherwise, don't give any class. But basically, this is active as a function. This is going to have. So what this means is class name is going to call a function that is active as the property. And this is all handled by the nav link component. It automatically calls this function. So based on this flag, the nav active class gets added to the element. So if I see nav active, if you see this, the CSS rule I have defined for nav active is different. Nav active has a CSS border like this. So basically, based on our navigated item where it is currently, based on that, we can actually define this. We can actually also add this class name to this link as well. That will give us the functionality. So this gets called only once because We have to do some optimization here. Let's extract this into a function, put it under get class. Instead of class name, we are going to use get class. Whenever the page re-renders, then it will call this function. So what this is doing is when this is rendering, the nav's link component will call this get class function. Based on that, whatever is returned, it will add that class name. Let's add some more routes, just like this, about and categories. So we have categories. In this categories, I'm going to define some list of categories. Let's go to categories page. Let's define some division container. We will leave it. Instead of this, we'll leave that as it is. We'll add some unordered list here. And we will see class, there's a class name as categories. I have defined some rules for CSS rules for this categories. Go back and basically I'm going to use something called API.js where I have defined a list of articles and speakers. So I'm going to import this API into this categories component. Import this export default get categories. I'm going to import this get categories from ./API.API. So in React, you don't need to add the extension. So this get categories, we are going to call before rendering categories. Get categories. For each of the categories, I'm going to define one link list item. How do I render the list items? Yes, with my function. So each category is going to be received in callback. This returns a linked list item with text as category.name, which you can find here. Category.name. I go back to this, you can see all the categories. There is a one, see console, it says key property is not given. So this still have to give it. So let's go and we'll use category.name. Just to find it. Okay, this is good. Now we can list all this. Now that's gone. So these things should act like links, and this should navigate to another subpage. Let's say category slash 3D painting and design. This should give me the details of that particular element, this particular speech. Basically, for doing that, we need to define nested routes. How do I do that? Let's see. So inside of here, in the app.js, we have defined a route called categories. If I have to have nested routes, let's remove this and make it as full element, and inside of this route we will have another route. This time this is going to have path as categories slash something. Sorry, not its path. And the element, let's say I will define when this is nested route. Let's see how this works. Something I will go to element categories slash something. Nothing displays. That's because there is no place for this. This router, this page, categories page, does not know where to render this component. So in order to do that, actually what we need to do is, if I have to go any children of the specific element, if I have to display, I have to add something called outlet. So that is also part of the React router DOM. Let's go do that. Let's import the element called outlet from React router DOM. So this outlet is going to know where the children of this particular categories element should be displayed. If I go see here, when I navigate to categories, categories element gets rendered. So how about this something nested route here? So where do I need to render this? That has to be specified with outlet. Let's define the outlet here. I define now, after all the list navigation elements are done, then print any children elements if there are any. So that gets displayed here. This is nested route. If I just go to categories, there is no children because it's not satisfying this something category route. So only categories route is there. So only this category element gets displayed, whereas all children A, B, C, if that element exists, it will render, otherwise it doesn't. How do I handle all invalid routes? I will show you in some time. If there is a valid child, it will display the parent and its child. This is how basic layouts work. So we will define a complete layout and we'll make the sub childs of those as children of those will get rendered within that layout through the outlet mechanism, just like this. So we don't have to repeat the layout. Every page need not have all the layout defined. We define the layout once and only the specific portions of the application will get changed based on the nested routes. That's how complete applications are built. So next thing what we will do is we will make these links as dynamic links. If I click on this, that particular article or speeches uh, details should be shown in the child. It should go into that particular API I'm going to use. So instead of this, just the links item, I'm going to make this as a navigation. So inside of here, I'm going to use nav links. Okay, let's use nav link. This so okay, this here I have defined a specific data structure. Name of this speak. It's like a TED talk. Name of the talk and then ID. These are speaking sessions. These are like list of speaking sessions. The name of the session, the ID of the session. This usually will be some database ID. So to show the name of this, let's say these are the categories of speeches we gave as part of our community effort or something, some demonstration. Different pages, sub pages of a blog. Let's say if I take a blog, these are, let's say, categories of the blog. The name of the blog is this, or category of the blogs is this, and then ID of the category is this. And then we have sessions. Sessions actually nothing but it's like a like in a in a seminar, like 5 sessions will be there, 6 sessions will be there, like that. It's like we are kind of building an app website for our fictitious company, which we have given some talks on different categories of subjects. Now let's go here and this category dot ID, each of the categories. Let's say I would rename this to category that I've defined a previous data. Usually this data comes from the database. So I've defined just a dictionary or an object. So name has it's an array of categories. The name of the category is 3D printing and design. Based on this category, what all talks we have given and who is the speaker, from which organization. If I'm attending a conference, like this could be a conference. Conferences will have different set of speeches on different categories. So we have 3D printing and design category and so on. For that category, I'm listing category ID and category name. Category name will be shown here. This is the name. I just say name, that name. So I'm using category name. Yes. If I click on this, how many talks were given and who were the speakers, and everything should come in the subpage. Let's go this. Instead of just the link, I'm going to use a navigation element here. If I click on this link, it should go to that specific category subpage. Right now, it doesn't go anywhere. Let's define this. In order to do this, we actually need to specify our routes that we will do. So let's make this as a link to categories slash let's make this a dynamic string link to slash categories slash category.id and have this inside of this. I'll use nav link. With this nav link, I'm going to define a class name based on the selected item. We should highlight that particular item. So now this extended property. Now, if I go click on this, it will go to the specific URL, but these URLs we haven't defined in our routes. That's why it's showing blank. We will fix that. And based on this current category that we are in, it should highlight that link. So once we define the routes, we'll come back and define those class names. So in order to define these routes, we have to go into the app.js, and instead of this, I'm going to use path name as dynamic. So in order to make this path name as dynamic, we have to do something. Let's refactor this a little bit before we can do something. So here we already have categories, and we don't want to explicitly specify slash categories here. We can remove this entire thing and keep just something part here. If I now go back here and category slash something, it works. You don't need to specify the full path inside the child routes. This time, instead of something, I'm going to define something like colon, name, or ID, session ID, or category ID. This is called dynamic URL parameter for the route. So whatever the name of the route is, let's say ABCD, whatever the route is, it's going to match that particular route and render always this text or this element. So let's extract this into category.js. Let's use category.js instead of this placeholder text. Category.js, category element will display. So category session, this element has this text, placeholder text. We will just replace this with the actual content of the API here. We'll do that next. But based on here, if I go to app, so whatever the cat ID is, whatever ABCD or AI robotics, everything will actually map to this colon cat ID. And inside this category element, I can access this cat ID. This is the URL parameter. So for using that, we need to use a special function called useParams from the React router. Let's use that. For now, let's import useParams from React router. So let's just do this. This is also another hook that is provided by React router. So we have the same use effect, use state, use context. All this are coming from use React, and whereas React router gives us use params, use navigate, and other things. So we'll also see use navigate also when we are doing some redirections in the UI. In order to get use params, I need to use, let's say, constant something. Let's use, let's say, just name it as params. Use params. And this gives us, this parameters will give us some object. Let's console log it and see what it is. This I'm going to put it in an object. So then, console. Here, refresh. I click on this and see params object has cat ID. Basically, whatever we passed in as colon cat ID, this cat ID will come as a parameter over here. I use params, it will extract all the path parameters that will be. These are kind of dynamic parameters that will pass to each of the paths. So based on this category ID, we can render specific article without having to have each page defined for each of the categories. Let's do that now. So instead of params, we can actually use cat ID. object deconstruction we can use directly. And we need to get this article, all these sessions and speakers, all details from this categories inside this. Based on this ID, we need to find the article or find this speech that we got, or find the category that we have, and get this entire object into this element. Let's do that now. So let's import this categories from API. Import get categories, which gives us the list of all categories, just like we used in the list categories session. We can actually use get category directly. If I just pass in category ID, it will figure out what's the correct category object and gives that category. I go back to the top. We have stuff. These are different categories that we have. This one object, it will be based if I'm passing ethics and environment as a parameter for the cat ID, we give this object from here. So let's go to this category. Let's import this function and call this function from the category. Get category from dot/API. Insert under yeah. So this get category we are going to call. We just get the category into a constant and use this function to filter for this category. Whatever is passed in the URL, we are capturing that in the category component, extracting the category ID and passing, filtering the list of all categories that we have and extracting that specific category object. So that category might have like multiple sessions, speaker sessions, and we will display all those sessions over here in the list. So instead of category sessions, we are going to use the category name. Let's say category has a name. That name we are going to use. Yes. So we extracted the category from the cat ID, which is passed as well. Let's replace this with category name. Let's see. Let's see this. 3D printing. In this category, what all sessions have been presented, we will show a list here. Just put non-date list. And let's have a class name. That means I've defined the CSS already, so it should be session list. Each of the sessions will be done from the category.sessions. If you see here, category has a sessions entity, which has a list of all sessions under that category. Let's access that category of sessions dot map for each of the sessions. We are going to return map link. It's not right now. We'll just return the list item itself. And let's use session dot name. Just see if that works. And we need to give some spacing. Wait a second. We are actually getting 3D printing search purpose. We have these sessions, 3D printing with metal, and then home building with 3D printing. Each session, we need to have a list item. Let's have a class name or key element here. Not forget that session will use session ID there, and let's create the session list we have. For list items, we will have class name as session. Key property define. Please note the gap because we have success. And we'll make this also as navigation links. We will have some more details. If I click on this or this, it should display some more details about this session. It's like we have it here. The bio of the speaker, who is the speaker, description of the session, and all those details should come. And in order to do that, we have to do one more nesting level underneath this category also. Under this category, there should be one more step category that will come as category slash category name slash something like session ID. That time it will render underneath it. So we can have like 18 or 19 levels of nested route. And let's add some more details here in the categories. We are just displaying the name here. Instead, let's put this in paragraph element. So this should be session, right? Categories, category item, session. Oh, it says categories. Sorry about that. Should we are over here, and for each of these sessions, let's do some styling. We put this under paragraph. We'll go session here. This has a specific styling. Right? Let's add one more paragraph that gives the speaker name. Let's add session dot speaker name, and then the organization where they came from. Okay. Now if I click on this, the styling, let's see, this can get highlighted based on, we also have this nav link has the capability to identify active links. So let's use nav links for this list items. Let's put a nav link, tap this up, this entire thing inside a nav link. These styles are not automatic because I have written those styles in my previous session. Session name, these are all not pre-built functionality. If I go search for session name, I would have already written that session name CSS. Let's use nav link from the toggle down. And with this nav link, let's change the active link. If it is active, class name I'm going to change based on is active, I'm going to give a specific name. If this is active true, it will be session active. I already have written some session active class here. If session active, the color will be like this, something like that. If not, let's put no class. And based on the activity, because we have defined class names, if I go to sessions category, paragraph will be there. And if I see margin for the sessions, yeah, all these are defined in the index.css. So later. So now if I click on this, it should actually navigate to a specific section inside this category. Let's define that. And we have class name defined. Now we have to define the two parameters of this. So this should go to session.id. Basically what this does is, if I don't specify slash behind it or in front of it, it will navigate from the current page. It will directly navigate to the next. It will append the path to the next element. Let's demonstrate that. Refresh this. And if I click on this, it will add this 3D symmetry thing to the end of the path, current path. If I add slash, let's say half slash, then here, see how this works. Okay, it directly goes to slash, it replaces the entire path. I don't use slash here, I just use the session ID. Hash, click, it will add to the current path. So now we have handled that, but we haven't added any route. Basically, in our app.js, we define the routes till the second child, the categories and category ID. If I click something inside it and there is something like category slash category ID slash session ID, there is no route that specifies that. So in order to do that, we will have to add one more nesting level here inside of here. Let's convert this also into a parent like this. Inside of this, I can define one more route. Path. You can do any number of things. You can do any number. You can have like 1,000 also. It's not even how many you can add. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Large scale applications will have so many things, nested routes. So let's define another child. Path this time is going to be colon session ID. And this session ID actually is going to be a route. Complete route will become categories slash cat ID slash session ID. The first thing, categories slash 3D printing will become the cat ID. And if I click on this thing will become the session ID. And the handler of this route, which is the element, is going to be session. Here I'm going to use session here. this session component has to handle the session ID parameter. Based on that, it has to render the details. So let's go to this session. You can see that it's already defined, the name of it, and all that details. Let's refresh. Let's go to 3D printing. Now if I click on this, it's not showing anything because we haven't added up to here. We have added the outlet. Category has the outlet. This session element doesn't have the outlet. Okay. This category element doesn't have the outlet. We'll go to category. There is no outlet defined here. So this parent element, categories element has an outlet. If any child is there within this element, it gets rendered here. Whereas this category doesn't have any outlet. So any child of this category element doesn't get displayed. In order to do that, we have to add the outlet again to the category as well. So let's go to category. After this unordered list, let's add the outlet. So if something happens, some element is clicked, all the child elements are going to be rendered in this place. Now, if I click on this, that gets changed. So, yes. Now, if I click on this, session object gets displayed. So now if I have here, now the category now has the outlet which gets displayed. Any child of category will get displayed at this place. Now this is a parent and 3D printing is the category. And if I click on this, the route gets added here and that session details will be shown after this category. This entire thing is the category or component, and this is displaying the outlet. In place of outlet, it's displaying this session. This is a sample category. I'm just hard coded the category ID here. Basically, we need to get this category and session ID from the parameters that we pass in here. Let's do that now. So just like we have seen earlier, let's import use params from ReactJS and use this from use params. Both of them can be extracted from one use params itself. All the parameters, URL parameters, whatever is defined in the entire hierarchy gets extracted from one single call to use params. So now category and session ID both can be extracted like this. From cat ID, mass session ID equals use params. And it's comment out this part. And this category ID, we are actually going to get from the API file. We have a function called get category based on the get category, and we will also have get session. If you pass in the session ID and category ID, it will first extract the category ID and then again extract the session ID. So this is all pure JavaScript. So find method is works on list of objects and compares each object and extracts a specific object that is matching the criteria that is passed to the find criteria that we declare. So, so we have session. So we are passing category and session ID to the get session thing, and we are extracting that particular session name, description, speaker. It's all object deconstruction. This entirely gives the entire session object, which is this entire object. We are only extracting name, ID, and speaker in here and displaying name of the session, description, and speaker details. Let's refresh. And this was always getting one specific category, 3D printing earlier, because it was hard coded. Now we have made it dynamic by extracting from use params. Let's go click on home categories. Now, if I want to extract all the sessions that happened on AI and robotics category, Click on this. Click on security, let's say second one. Under this session, the details of this session will be shown here. We can have one more nesting level, like child of child of child, so on. So all the navigation items and layouts work in this fashion. This is how we build reusable components and shoutable components. That is about React Router. And I think there is one optimization we can still do in the app.js. Let's go back. And what about one last thing? So what about, okay, now I've done something, and if I click on an interaction, it's redirecting. So how about navigating the page on its own? Let's say something happened, some event happened in the background. Based on that event, the redirect has to happen. That kind of redirections, how to handle, we'll see next. So inside here, let's have one route for form submission. Let's say login session or register session. So I made a basic form here that says handle submit. This we will add it to routes. One more route we will add. That path will be, let's say, register/register. If I do it directly here, it actually means /register directly. You don't need to specify slash every time. It's okay. We can skip this slash. First route in the parent level, it will be /categories. It will assume. And this element is going to be the session. Not session element. This is not the register element. Register I need to import. Okay, it's already. Oh, we have input. Let's make this one. Add it again. That's it. We have register. Let's add this register also into the navigation links that we have. Please copy from this register. I think we have it here. Let's add the register also. So register. I click on register. It gives me a form. I submit. Nothing happens. So I want this application to redirect to some confirmation page upon submission. So let's do that. How do I navigate automatically? Is by using something called use navigate. Let's go to the register page. So what's happening here is on handle of submit, on submission, what is happening? It's preventing the default submission and doing nothing. So we have already seen the reference use ref on other hooks. It's just trying to extract this type image. So we can actually use something like upon submission. Let's do some confirmation. Thank you, and you are registered for something. We want to redirect to this particular route. Let's define this route first, and then figure out how to navigate from submission into that route. How to automatically navigate or redirect. Let's go to app.js. Let's just add one route called confirmation and use confirmation component. Now, if I go to confirmation, okay, this gives correctly. How about when I submit some data? How about navigating it here? In order to do that, let's go to register and then import something called use navigate from React Router down. This use navigate, how to use it is by initializing a constant called navigate. It can be anything. Use navigate. And this navigate, let's say on submission, I'm going to call this navigate at the path of where I want this application to go next. On submission, where to go next. So I'm going to redirect to confirmation. Okay. So now let's test this out. So I'm going to give some details, submit, and it's navigating to confirmation page. And one more extra thing. So how do I pass in this information? Let's say I have the name of the, let's say I will have some more information like name of the applicant, address, their address and everything. It will be better if I say like thank you so and so name. You can be doing so and so and so and so. Let's do that now. Let's go back to the register page. Let's add some more fields. Name also. Let's add one more field called name. Use name here, and let's define a name reference. For this time, I can also pass in some extra information with the state property. The state object will have this object and have state object. State object we will have name as this name ref dot current dot value. This we already saw in our previous sessions. Email as email ref dot current dot values. Now this confirmation page will have this object passed as parameters. Now we need to extract that parameters, use them in this confirmation message. Let's go back to confirmation. Now we can actually do something. Before doing this, let's go visit how this works. We have something like this. Let's submit and see how the URL looks like. Okay, we got this confirmation. To extract this object that is passed into this navigate, we need to use a special function or hook called use location. That is also from React Router DOM. What this does is it will give all the parameters that are passed to the object. Let's define station params, use location. And this will have that state object. Let's define this console log. Let's see what it looks like. Register, submit, location params as path name, key, and state. So path name, we can see that this is confirmation. This is all default properties that are sent from the outside. And this state object is what we are interested in. Let's extract that state object from here. We are only interested in that state object. Let's only put state here. Let's remove this line. So thank you we'll keep it, and we will put something like state dot name. You're registered for this, and let's add some more information. We have sent more details to Gmail. Let's say state dot email. Let's put it in bold. Let's use strong for that. Okay, now let's go back. We can see that the data has been passed and the state value has been read from this page. It's about navigating automatically and getting location parameters from within the components. We've looked at routes, nested routes, and extracting parameters using use params, and navigating with use navigate automatically from registration page to confirmation page. We saw nav links. Nav links we have seen, and use location, use navigate, and inside this use location. These are some of the important hooks. Then we have state management. We have already seen with React bare metal state management with use state. And there are advanced libraries like Redux and Redux Thanks that we will see when we are building the actual applications. So in the next session, we will have a full stack application built